the link between national languages and nation building, and how we forget that, all these kind of languages, and we think they're set in stone and this is the right language and how it's been. You just have to go back like 100 years and you'll see how it wasn't the case. And then he points some very like easy examples. He points in places like Italy, where a few hundred years ago people in north and south could barely understand each other, and he says the language that as Italian was the Italy that was spoken in Florence. And usually the language that you're taught in school is like pretty much whatever language has won all the cultural, social wars, like everything
Position.
else.
Yeah,
Eh,
the ones that control newspapers
yeah,
and media basically set the course, and education system
yeah.
set the course. But
But
Germany still doesn't have, I think, single unified. German languages is still going through the process of uniformification. Bavarian is somewhat like,
yeah, yeah. He gives the Germany example, and then
yeah,
the clearest one
it-
is China. He says like what we call Chinese dialects. He says like one Chinese dialect from another is as different as French is to German, and these are
or
just like
yeah,
a social cultural definition and like grouping that we've given to all these.
yeah. No,
Like,
that's definitely yeah. It's very much for on this matter though. I would suggest reading Eric Hobsbawm's history as well as uh, Benedict Anderson's Imagined Communities. They are great on the role that um, language unification plays in nationalization and nation state creation and all that. Because nation states are relatively new, right? Before then we used to live in empires that were multilingual and
hmm
multicultural. Not necessarily more peaceful, but more mixed.
yeah,
So
extremely
yeah,
new. I mean, it's interesting how even countries such as France, which compared to some African nations or Middle Eastern nations, they became a country much more organically, you could say. Perhaps you just have to look at the maps. But even there, I mean, there had to be a conscious attempt to, have a unified language.
Fr-
And it's just so
France
funny with French, because French has such a, like, like,
France had most radical reaction in terms of language because they created academic français or whatever it's
mhm,
called that comes up with new words. And I mean, I think it's a bit of an overreaction to because language is always evolving and
yeah,
borrowing words. And
of course. But the
yeah,
French
but
are so, like, they like take pride on pride on that,
they
which
take
I guess
pride on
is all fake. And then I was
and
just telling you this.
and
Sorry, go ahead.
for in France they had thousands of languages called
Hmm.
patois, I believe, that were sort of local languages. They basically destroyed those in favor of a centralized. Yeah, France really went crazy on the whole language thing.
Yeah. But the whole thing of nation building is just fascinating, and then people have, because in our heads we're so programmed now, I guess, to think, okay, these people are from this country, that means, they're for sure unified across all these traits and characteristics in like an organic way, which often is, far from the truth. And you
Yeah,
need
yeah.
all these things. And then he was pointing out such interesting things about language. Just the last thing I remember is I was telling you he says that how French, the old French, was a proper, I mean it still is, but what's the word, romance language,
Romance language,
the
language
romance
that is
language.
in vulgar Latin, basically
Yeah.
the Latin that most people spoke.
And he points out that how, like, it's, for instance, in actual romance language or the other romance languages, you can drop the subject, so you don't have to say that, like, I want. You can just say want, which I've been learning Portuguese a bit, and it clicked. I was like, shit, that's true, but you can't do it in French. And then he says that in French, this part of the rule, they just decided, when they made this version of the French, someone pushed it to be more like the English and German language, which you can't do that. Just fascinating stuff, really.
Yeah, languages are mixed in very crazy and strange ways. English is a fascinating one because it
Hmm.
has the French, German, Latin, older Latin, and Scandinavian influence. There are loads of mixtures. Persian has
Yeah, I was gonna
lo-
ask you, what about I mean,
Farsi
as
has
a kid, like I find in Iran, it's very actually extreme. There's like in newspapers or on TV and stuff, it's as if they're often speaking a completely different language than the
sure,
Farsi that I would
but
speak at home or like on the streets or whatever. It's like these
Iran,
fancy words or posh. I don't know what the story is.
yeah, it's far more, yeah, it's written language, although newspaper written language is far more posher, as you say, or more formal. But Iran, within Persian, there is less diversity than most languages, I think. And it's largely, I think, to do with the fact that Persian is very much poetry based.
Mm.
So the poetry, which had to be memorized, not, people who couldn't read and write. So you don't get as many variants of the Persian dialects are sometimes difficult to understand, but they're not like sometimes, for example, it's not like the case that is in Italy with the north and
Yeah,
south
yeah,
or
no, that's true
Germany.
when I think about it. Yeah.
But in Iran, you have multiple languages like the
Hmm.
Turkish and Persian, and then you got the Arabic, and then within Turkish, I think there is the most variety. For example, Turks from a certain city don't understand Turks from another city,
Yeah,
you know. But within Persian, there is less, so
yeah.
largely because of its history, I think. So in each case, it's really different.
No,
It's
yeah,
very
I particularly meant like in Persian, in Farsi. I know in Iran they speak multiple languages, but yeah, like so the literary one is quite different in Iran than too from the spoken one, or no? Because I mean, Chomsky says, for instance, in English it's not, which is so true. The English that you learn in school in the States or in the UK is relatively
similar.
similar to the English that you would speak
If
at
it,
home and pick up on the streets or whatever.
it's changing now. It's getting more informal, like fictional books, novels, that type of thing. But newspapers are very, very, very formal.
And in Farsi and Iran, they also teach you two ways of writing, right? If I'm not mistaken, like the way
Uh,
that's written in like
That's
newspaper.
calligraphy. No, 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 no. The way that's wrote, like in Farsi, when you speak, you eat a lot of your own words.
Yeah, no,
Like
I'm talking about the
a lot
writing
of
specifically.
no, that's calligraphy basically. In
Okay.
Iran, back in the days, there used to be more emphasis on calligraphy, which they call nastaliq, which is if you look at Pakistani videos, for example, or Pakistani subtitle, the way Pakistanis write,
Mm.
they write like nastaliq, which is a bit more like the way the words are written is more dragged and it's more connected. The Persian one, the one in Iran in use, is more sort of robotic and has more 90
Yeah.
degrees and all that. So, no, but that's calligraphy. That's not
Mm.
a. But when we speak in Farsi, it's far more relaxed. When you read the informal thing, everything is pronounced. So
Hmm.
it feels weird. On newspapers, especially, not so much like in fictional novels or in history books or in that type of thing.
Okay. All right. Well, very interesting. I guess we'll end this Chomsky conversation here.
Yeah.
And it's actually raining New Year in a week, so we're going to be putting out some content specific to Iran. But yeah, any final thoughts on languages? Chomsky smoking.
No,
Was Chomsky really a smoker, or was it just for photo shoots? Someone
and
needs to get to the bottom of
uh,
that.
and what was in that pipe?
Yeah.
Tobacco, weed, crack. We
Yeah.
need to know. We need the answers now. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. So let
Okay.
us know, please. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. Please share your thoughts, comments in the comment box below, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.